Hi, my name's Rob Scott from UC Today, and in this session, I'm joined by Intrado, and we'll be talking about how you can meet the latest 911 regulations for UC platforms in the United States. So how about we get started with a round of introductions. Mary, would you like to go first?
Good day, Rob. Morning for me, I believe afternoon for you. I'm Mary Boyd. I'm Vice President of Policy, Regulation, and Government Affairs for Intrado. A little bit about my background for your viewing audience. I actually have been in the 911 business for, I won't say precisely, but let's just say well over 3 decades. I have a strong operations background. I actually was in charge of 911 systems, but I've been with Entrada for about 23 years now. My expertise is in policy and regulation. I've been involved in development and implementation of policy and regulation on 911 throughout the country. In full disclosure, I am not an attorney. But I know you will have probably people viewing that are legal counsel. We have legal counsel in our company. We partner with them. But the team I work with, we're all about compliance and working with our regulatory agencies. So we will provide, and you'll hear Lev talk about this, resources later where you can get additional information. But I am grounded in compliance for our company, and so I'm delighted that you've invited us here to talk about our new regulations.
Thanks, Mary. Lev?
Yes, so my name is Lev Deich. I'm the Vice President for Sales and Operations for the Enterprise 911 line of business at Intrado. Our line of business is really focused on providing 911 capabilities for multi-line telephone systems, whether it's on-prem or hosted unified communications. And thank you for inviting us to this session today.
Well, thank you both for joining me. It's going to be a great session. So first of all, why don't we just talk a little bit around Intrado, Lev? Just tell everyone what the business does and how you go to market.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Entrada is obviously a large corporation and we have multiple lines of businesses, but life and safety is one of the largest units within Entrado. And within life and safety, we have around 900 people that are entirely focused on maintaining and improving the 911 infrastructure in the United States. And we're involved across all segments of that business. So my team, of course, I mentioned earlier, is the MLTS side, but we also have a team that works with carriers on wireline, wireless cellular phones, and VoIP, so that all those carriers can deliver the calls to public safety anywhere in the country with location information. We have a next generation 911 team that's focused on improving and turning the 911 infrastructure to an IP-based environment so you can have better resiliency and better rich data coming through that. We also do the PSAP equipment, so public safety answering points. They're the 911 call centers in the United States. And when they receive calls, they need software to quickly do dispatch, and Intrado does that as well. So we have a huge market share in that space where operators can use that to work very efficiently and get a response as quickly as possible. And across all those lines of businesses, we're probably involved in the vast majority of the 911 calls in the country. If you pick up a phone today and dial 911 from any device, there's probably greater than 90% chance that it's traversing through some sort of Intrado solution. So we're very, very big in this space. We invest a lot of resources and money in people, and it's a great job, and we're very excited to be playing such an important role in emergency response.
Yeah, thanks, Lev. And Mary, in terms of providing a bit of an overview of E911 regulations, could you tell us where we are today, the misconceptions and that kind of thing, please?
Yes, Rob. Actually, 911 in the U.S. has laws and state regulations in every country. And then if you look at the national level, you have regulations at the Federal Communications Commission that govern 911 implementation for wireless and voice over IP, and some wireline aspects. But there is one piece of regulation that we want to talk about today, and that's related to MLTS. This service, ironically, while we have regulations that require callback information and location on every telecommunications service in the country, MLTS was the one service that did not have any regulations that mandated and said when a 911 call goes in, you're going to send a callback number and you're going to send a location. And so the states tried to manage it for years and years, and I can say that, with firsthand experience when I was in charge of the Texas 911 Commission for many years. The states attempted to regulate that. So we do have some forms of regulation in the states. That's very important to remember as you look at the new national regulation and law, because the new federal legislation grandfathered and did not preempt the state law. So when I talk about the new MLTS legislation, for those that are serving the U.S., just remember you also need to look at the states you're in to see what's in place there. So unfortunately, and this is so classic in the 911 business, we had to have a tragedy happen in order to get federal national law. Kari's law is actually named for a young woman who perished in a hotel, and her young daughter had to watch that happen, and she tried to access 911 and she couldn't do that with a direct access. And Kari's dad, Hank Hunt, took it on after his daughter died, and his granddaughter said, Papa, I did everything right. I did what I was taught in school. And she did. She dialed 911, but it needed an access code for her to get out, and she couldn't get help. And so she had to watch her mom die in front of her, and it's just tragic. So Hank took it on as just his calling in life to get law in place. And he first started at the states, and then he realized the only way to fix this was going to be with Congress. And so we do have some states with state law, but now we have Congress that passed legislation. And the Kari's law set forth really a couple of things. It said you'll have direct access to 911 without an access code, and you're going to have a notification feature. It was forward thinking, where the commission, the FCC, had rulemaking authority on that law, which went into effect February 16th of 2020. Let me repeat that. Kari's law went into effect February 16th of 2020. It was forward thinking. So any MLTS system that was, manufactured and installed prior to that is grandfathered. And Lev's going to talk about the technical aspects and what you do in those with those systems. But in the notification piece of that, just remember in the rules that the FCC enacted, it also has a provision. So when you dial 911, you'll send a callback information, and you're going to send location by law and rule. However, if you on your premises, so you're a hotel, you're a work environment, an office building, a campus, it also allows for notification to that facility. So it could be at the actual facility, or it could be a security office at another location. The intent is that that business is notified of an emergency call being placed. It could be by text, it could be by smartphone, it could be by computer, maybe it's at a hotel registration. And so the law says send that information unless there's technical challenges. And so there are some provisions where the system, if it was not feasible to do that, there are some exceptions. So for the attorneys who are watching this video, please, I'm staying very high level because it's very complicated set of rules and laws. And I'm going to kind of give you the places to look so you know where to not sort of step in a landmine. But now we have sort of this forward thinking piece of law that's going to set place that when you dial 911 from an MLTS system, our public safety answering points are actually going to be able to call you back and be able to locate you, because there was another law that went parallel to Kari's law. So now we have state law, we have Kari's law, we're going to have this third law in Congress, and that was known as the Ray-Baum Act. Ray-Baum Act also gave the Federal Communications Commission the authority to go into rulemaking and put in what we refer to in the states as dispatchable location. And dispatchable location is really the ability to, I'm just going to, if you don't mind, Rob, I'll just give you the quick definition. A location delivered to the PSAP with a 911 call that consists of a validated street address of the calling party, plus information that's related to the suite, an apartment, or similar information that's necessary to identify the calling party. So the intent of a dispatchable location is so public safety can identify where the person is and render emergency response to them. So the Ray-Baum Act gave the FCC rulemaking authority. They passed rules. Now, while Kari's law went into effect in February, the dispatchable location actually has other deliverable dates. It gave companies the opportunity to have a little more time for implementation. So if you are a fixed MLTS system, 1 year after the passage of the rules, you would have to put dispatchable location. So that will put you at January 6th of 2021. If you are non-fixed or off-prem, then you have 2 years. So take 2 years from January 6th of 2020. So it is tragically over Kari's loss and the work of her dad, we now have at least legislation and rules that will hopefully keep this from happening again. And so, Lev will talk to you about the technology and the solutions that are in place to deliver on this regulation. But we're happy to answer questions for anyone viewing this, to guide you on where to go to get more information for compliance on it. And thank you again for asking us to participate.
Thanks, Mary. That's really useful. That's a great overview as well to get us started with. So, Lev, over to you for, in terms of, practical implementation of these regulations and across UC solutions nowadays, which are, there's all sorts of complexities in today's world, in the world of communication. So could you talk to us a little bit about the common challenges and how you help solve them?
Yeah, I mean, if you boil down what Mary just said in terms of what does an enterprise need to do, it's really 3 things, okay? Making sure your dial plan can dial 911 without a prefix. Making sure that if you have the notification capability on your UC or PBX, turn it on, enable it. And the third piece is make sure you have precise location, all right? Now, the precise location is the tricky part. I think that, what Mary just said, it has to be precise enough for a first responder not to get delayed in the response time. They have to be able to quickly find the user, right? There's no specific black or white regulation that says 40,000 square feet or, this distance or per floor or per room. None of that doesn't exist, right? Which lawyers love because it's a little bit vague. So, my advice to enterprise has always been, it's a risk factor, right? If you just send the main address of your building, chances are you're going to be, if something does happen, a lawyer will be able to go in there and say, well, we have a case for not following those regulations and you're liable, right? Then the other extreme is trying to go down to, every single room and you have your IT department spending, years building up rules and processes and collecting data for automation. And that's just not practical either. So there's that middle ground, that allows you to be somewhere in between where you're optimizing the effort and minimizing the risk at the perfect spot. And this is where we can help, right? This is really about looking what you have in your environment and saying, okay, what can we do quickly, efficiently, without, creating, and while minimizing your risk at the maximum level, right? And that's a judgment call. It's a risk assessment call. And the good news is we work with thousands of clients and we can tell you, well, a lot of people are doing this or a lot of people are doing that in your case. So the reality is, yes, the regulations are complicated and they're a little bit vague and there's ways to interpret it, but we have some really practical common sense things that we can recommend to people and say, look, this is how you can do it. Is your risk zero? No, but it's going to be low enough that you're taking every precaution, you're doing the right amount of effort that's proportional to the risk reward. And I think that's what enterprises need to keep in mind.
It sounds like this is, I suppose, service management and programming plays a major part in this. So, where does that responsibility lie in an organization? Is that something an enterprise would typically outsource, or would they manage that themselves?
Good question. So it really depends. So if you have an on-prem phone system, typically your IT department is going to be there to, just kind of recap here is we provide applications and solutions that add an automation to your 911, right? Instead of doing everything manually and tracking everything manually, we have tools and applications on-prem cloud that automate most of this stuff, right? So the enterprise really just needs to come up with the rules. How do I automate? My subnet can be tied to a location. My switches can be tied to locations. My access points can be tied to locations. You program the rules, and then if you have a properly implemented solution, it's all automated. Just fine-tuned when you change your network. So the responsibility really comes to whoever's managing that network, whoever has that, where are those access points? Where are those subnets? So if you're doing it in-house, then you need to do it in-house. If you're outsourcing to a managed service provider, then you need to have that managed service provider do it for you. But really, that's really what it involves. It's just integrating the solution and providing the rules. And that can be done easily by whoever is managing your network.
Great, thanks. That's a great explanation. So in terms of taking this to market then as a solution, as a service to your enterprise customers, how do you do that, Lev?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a channel-based organization, so we work with a lot of the US-based resellers that deploy your UC platforms. So if it's an on-prem solution, they're usually involved in setting the enterprise clients up, and we work with them. They help with the configuration. We provide the applications, and we guide through the project. So it's really white glove service to the finish line. If it's a cloud-based solution, so we're seeing a lot of businesses migrate towards Microsoft Teams and WebEx cloud calling, and whenever you start migrating to the cloud, then we typically work with the hosted UC provider, and we have an integrated solution for that. So the idea is that whether you're on-prem or cloud or hybrid, we'll either work with the reseller, we'll work with the cloud provider, and in some cases, some customers like to work direct with us. It does happen. But we typically go through our resellers who do a great job, by the way, of integrating and really minimize the amount of work that an enterprise needs to do.
Super. And Mary, just jumping back to the regulations, how do enterprises keep up to date with these regulations? Is that part of the service too?
Definitely. We team with Lev and our marketing group. We have a dedicated individual that works and we keep updated on both state and federal legislation and regulations as part of our services to our customers. And we do education campaigns for them, mainly because the way this law is written, you have to know what's in place at the states, and then you have to know what you have to do at the federal level, and just kind of guide them. We work very closely with the FCC and that staff. We do a lot of work with them as a volunteer, actually, with some of their initiatives. So we feel like, we've got the right partnerships in place that we can help our customers and get them guided on compliance and, keep them out of hot water. That's our job for our own company, is to keep us out of hot water.
Absolutely. And, hats off to you for taking that responsibility on. So Lev, finally, if organizations are looking to find out more, viewers are looking to find out more about the service or about the regulations, where do they go?
Yeah, well, we're including a link in the description for this session, and it has a landing page where organizations can go in and, first of all, get a high-level overview of the regulations. So we actually summarize these regulations so that a normal person that's not a lawyer can understand the general concepts. And that really helps people understand, okay, well, this is what I kind of need to do. And just starting with that. And we also have, you follow through those, you can do more research to our website, but we also have solutions by phone system so that, if your phone system's in there, We have certified cookie cutter solutions where people can understand, okay, this is what I do. This is what the automation can help me do. This is how I can comply with regulations with the least amount of effort and work, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. You can't choose not to comply, but you can choose on how you do it. And we have a lot of information about that as well. And hopefully it's just a starting place for educating people about this. And then after that, if they have more questions, they can reach out to us. If they're working with one of our partners, they can reach out to our partners. And we're all here to help and really support, because we understand that there's not a lot of expertise in this area. And that's where we play such an important role, is just guiding people towards really straightforward, practical solutions.
Well, it's been great seeing you both today. Thanks for sharing some great insights with us and some knowledge on E911 regulations and how to tackle them. And that's it from us. It's been great to see you today. If you've enjoyed the session, please do give us a like or a share on social media. It's always appreciated. But for now, thanks for watching.